The sun hung over Seoul like a spotlight that day. Too bright, too sharp. And under that light sat a boy who didn't belong, quiet, nervous, and painfully out of place. His name was Eli Park, 22 years old, the kind of boy who looked down when people spoke to him, who counted his words like they cost something. But today, he was sitting at a rooftop bar, surrounded by men who could end lives with a single phone call. Eli sat in the far corner of the long wooden table. His hands rested on his lap, fingers fidgeting with the edge of a napkin. His uncle, a polished interpreter, had dragged him here last minute. "Just sit beside me," his uncle had said. "Translate if I get lost in accent." Eli never wanted to come. He wasn't good at people. He was good at listening. At the other end of the table sat Don Matteo Rossi, an Italian mafia boss disguised as a businessman. Dark suit, thick gold ring, smile that never reached his eyes. Across from him, three Korean men in immaculate gray suits. Calm. Too calm. They introduced themselves with polite nods and subtle smiles. But something about them felt off. They didn't laugh at the boss's jokes. They didn't glance around or sip their drinks casually. They just watched, like hunters pretending to be guests. Eli kept his eyes on his glass of water. The ice cubes trembled slightly, maybe from the bass of the music, maybe from his own shaking hand. He told himself to relax. "You're just a translator. Listen, translate. That's it." But as the men began to speak in low Korean, Eli felt something strange. Their tone was polite, but underneath there was rhythm, a pattern, words that didn't fit the conversation. "Man hash one" in Korean, soft. "Nice weather for a deal, isn't it?" Man hash two replying, "Yes." "The sky's clear. Perfect visibility." Man hash three smiling faintly, "3 hours till sundown. Everything must be done by then." Eli translated mechanically, his voice barely audible. But inside, something itched at the back of his mind. Perfect visibility? 3 hours till sundown? Those weren't business words. Those were timing words. Eli noticed the first man tapping his ring against the glass. Once, twice, 3 times. Then silence. The second man scratched his wrist, slowly, deliberately, revealing a faint tattoo. A small clock, its hands missing. Ellie's breath hitched. He looked away, pretending not to see. But then, he heard it. A whisper. Soft, almost inside his head. 3, 2, 1. He froze. No one was speaking. The men were still smiling. Eli blinked, looking around. Maybe someone nearby was counting for a game? No. The sound wasn't external. It was between them. A silent rhythm. Only he could hear. His heart started pounding. He didn't know how, but Eli had always been different. As a child, he could read lips, feel tones, catch whispers, even when no one else heard. It used to scare him. Now, it terrified him. The mafia boss, oblivious, laughed loudly, slapping the table. "Gentlemen, to new beginnings," he said, raising his glass. Ellie's stomach twisted. The boss's glass shimmered strangely in the sunlight, a faint rainbow film around the rim, too faint for anyone else to notice. But Eli saw it. He squinted. There was something there, something oily. His chest tightened. Was it poison? He looked at the Koreans again. They weren't watching the boss. They were watching the glass. Their eyes, calm, expectant. The first man's finger moved slightly under the table. A subtle press, like he was holding a remote trigger. And again. Eli heard it. 3, 2, 1. Ellie's breathing grew shallow. His palms were sweating. He wanted to speak, but his voice wouldn't come. Say something. Just say it. But fear clamped his throat shut. He imagined everyone turning toward him. The stares, the confusion, the humiliation. What if I'm wrong? What if they think I'm crazy? He remembered his mother's voice, soft and steady, from years ago. If you see danger, don't stay silent, Eli. Even if no one believes you. Ellie's fingers curled into fists. He looked at his uncle, still laughing, completely unaware. He looked at the boss, glass still in hand, ready to toast. And the countdown came again, faster this time. 3, 2. Ellie's heartbeat synced with it. Thump, thump. He swallowed hard, gathering what little courage he had. Don't, he whispered. His voice cracked. No one heard. He tried again, louder. Don't drink it. Everything stopped. The laughter, the conversation. The boss turned, eyebrows raised. What did you say? Ellie's voice trembled. Don't. But before he could finish, the Korean man smiled, eerily, politely, and the one with the tattoo leaned forward, voice calm and cold. Man #3 in perfect English. Too late. Effects. Faint heartbeat, growing louder. Ellie's world slowed. He saw the glass rise, sunlight catching on the rim. He saw a single droplet of liquid slide down its edge, glistening. His uncle laughed again, trying to smooth the tension. Ah, sorry, my nephew gets nervous easily. But Eli wasn't listening anymore. The whisper filled his head again. 3, 2, 1. Ellie's eyes widened. He saw one of the men's thumbs press firmly under the table. A soft click echoed, faint, hidden beneath the music. He shot up from his chair. Stop, he shouted. Everyone turned toward him, startled. The boss's glass froze midair. Ellie's breath hitched. The world felt like it was holding itself still. In that moment, the shy boy who spoke too little finally found his voice. And what he saw, shimmering, deadly, invisible to everyone else, would decide who lived and who didn't. But the glass was already halfway to the boss's lips. The countdown in Ellie's head hit 1. Click. A tiny sound. Almost nothing. Ellie's eyes darted to the table. He swore he saw a shimmer, like heat above asphalt. His chest burned with panic. He opened his mouth to scream, and the scene froze there. Sunlight spilling over the table. The glass, just inches from the boss's mouth. Ellie's trembling hand halfway raised. The boy who spoke too little was about to change everything. But what he didn't know was that the real danger wasn't in the glass. It was already ticking under the table. Time stopped. The sun was still shining over the city, but for Eli, everything froze. The glass hung in midair. The boss's smile stayed frozen on his lips, and in the pit of Ellie's stomach, something twisted. That whispered countdown hadn't stopped. It was getting faster. He could feel it pulsing in his head, not spoken aloud, but echoing like memory. 3, 2, 1. The Koreans sat motionless, too calm, too quiet. Their faces were carved masks of politeness, but their eyes were waiting for something. Ellie's throat locked up. He tried to force out a word, but his voice cracked like dry glass. He glanced at his uncle, who looked embarrassed. Uncle awkward chuckle. Ah, he's just nervous, Don Rossi. My nephew's not used to these meetings. Don Rossi smirking. It's fine. Let the boy breathe. Not everyone can handle business at this level. Eli wanted to scream. He wanted to shout stop. But no one was listening. They were all wrapped in their money, their power, their games. He stared at the shimmering rim of the boss's glass again, sunlight catching a thin film. It wasn't water. It wasn't reflection. It looked alive. Was it poison? Gas. He didn't know. Only that something about that glass felt wrong. His pulse pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. He wasn't supposed to be here. He was just a translator. A quiet kid who never fit anywhere. But right now, in this exact moment, he was the only person in the room who heard what no one else could. The Koreans exchanged a brief glance, short, precise, deliberate. The one with the tattoo of a clock leaned forward slightly. The man on his left nodded once, and the third adjusted his sleeve, revealing a small metal pin clipped inside his cuff. Ellie's chest tightened. His instinct screamed, these weren't businessmen. They were synchronized. Every move, every gesture, planned. He swallowed hard and tried to whisper to his uncle. Eli nervously. Uncle, something's wrong. Don't let him drink. Uncle sternly. Eli, please. Not now. You'll embarrass me. Eli whispering. No, listen. Uncle cutting him off. Enough. The word hit Eli like a slap. He froze. His uncle's tone was sharp, embarrassed, the way adults speak when they want you to disappear. He stared down at his lap. His hands trembled. He could walk away, pretend he didn't hear anything. But what if he was right? What if that countdown was real? He remembered his mother's voice again, her soft warning before she died. Eli. Some people listen to reply, but you listen to truth. Don't ever ignore what you hear. Her voice echoed in his head like a prayer. He lifted his gaze. The men were still smiling. The boss was still holding that glass. And then, a small vibration rattled through the table. Ellie's eyes darted downward. Under the tablecloth, a flash of metal. A tiny blinking light. It wasn't just poison. It was something bigger. He looked up sharply, straight into the eyes of the man with the tattoo. For a split second, their eyes met. The man smiled, slowly, and whispered, without moving his lips, "You can hear it, can't you?" Ellie's blood ran cold. He jerked his gaze away, heart racing, pulse slamming through his chest. He wasn't imagining it. He wasn't. The countdown came again, louder now, like someone whispering right behind his ear. 3, 2, 1. He couldn't breathe. He looked at the boss again, the glass trembling in his hand as he laughed. "Say something, Eli." Now, Eli shouting suddenly, "Don't drink it." The entire bar went silent. All eyes turned toward him. His uncle's face flushed red. "Eli, sit down." The boss blinked in confusion. "What's wrong with the drink?" he asked, voice half amused. Ellie's chest heaved. His palms were slick with sweat. He couldn't even explain it. He just knew. "It's not safe," he stammered. "The glass, there's something on it." Don Rossi laughs lightly. "You think someone's trying to poison me?" In broad daylight? Eli wanted to answer, but then he saw it. The first Korean man had slipped his hand under the table again. A soft click echoed, too quiet for anyone else to notice. The man's lips barely moved, but Eli heard it. 1. SFX. Heartbeat growing louder, time slowing down. The world slowed. The glass began to rise toward the boss's lips. Ellie's breath came in gasps. His uncle reached to grab him, but Eli stepped back, eyes locked on that shimmering glass. He saw a faint wisp of gas escaping from the rim, invisible to everyone else, but in the sunlight, it shimmered like silver smoke. No one saw it, only him. Every instinct in his body screamed to move, to shout, to grab the glass, to do something, but he couldn't. His feet felt nailed to the floor. He heard the countdown again, faint, fading, final. 3, 2, 1. And this time he felt it. A vibration under his chair, like something mechanical had just activated. Ellie's eyes widened in horror. "It's not just the drink. There's something under us." He turned to his uncle, voice breaking. "Uncle, get away from the table." But his uncle just stared at him, confused and angry. "Stop this nonsense. Sit down before you." SFX. Faint metallic click, distant hiss of escaping air. Ellie's words died in his throat. His eyes darted down again. That blinking light under the table just flickered once, then stopped. Eli didn't understand what it meant. He didn't know if it was a bomb, a signal, a trap, but he knew the countdown wasn't just in his head. Something had triggered. The Koreans were already standing, their faces calm, but their chairs pushed back. They knew what was coming. Ellie's heart pounded violently. He wanted to run, but the boss still sat there, confused, glass in hand. Don Rossi chuckling. "Relax, kid. You watch too many movies." Ellie's voice came out cracked, desperate. "Please, just don't drink it. Please." The boss sighed, then smiled and lifted the glass higher. "To good business," he said softly. SFX. Faint heartbeat. Music fades into silence. Slow zoom sound effect. Ellie's world tilted. He couldn't hear the laughter anymore. Only his heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. The sunlight hit the rim of the glass, and he saw the faint shimmer swirl again, almost beautiful in its danger. He couldn't let it happen. Not again. He didn't even remember moving. 1 second he was standing. The next, his chair crashed backward. He lunged forward, hand outstretched. Eli screaming, "Stop!" The glass exploded against the marble floor. Shards scattered across the table. The boss jumped back, startled. Gas hissed softly from the broken pieces, a faint, ghostly vapor rising. Everyone froze. The Koreans looked at each other. Then, without a word, they turned and walked away. No panic, no surprise, just calm, silent departure. And in that single moment, everyone realized Eli Park wasn't crazy. He had just stopped something no one else even saw. The boss stared at the shimmering vapor on the floor, his jaw tight, his breath heavy. "Who are those men?" he whispered. Eli didn't answer. He couldn't. His legs were trembling too hard to stand. The shy boy, who barely spoke, had just shouted loud enough to stop death itself. But as the crowd's noise slowly returned, footsteps, whispers, confusion, he heard something else. Faint, behind the chaos. A whisper, one last message. "We're not done." Eli froze. His eyes darted around. No one was near him. Just the whisper, fading into the wind. And then he noticed something glinting under the table. The same tiny device, still blinking once, twice, then off. Whatever this was, it hadn't ended. It had only paused. The silent countdown had only just begun. For a moment, no one breathed. The glass lay shattered across the marble floor, and from its glittering pieces, a faint silver smoke curled upward. Delicate, almost beautiful, and deadly. Eli stood frozen, hand still outstretched, chest heaving, heart slamming against his ribs. He didn't mean to move. He didn't think. He just acted. The rooftop bar had gone silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward him. His uncle's face was pale with embarrassment. The mafia boss, Don Matteo Rossi, stared at the broken glass by his shoes, then slowly looked up at Eli. His voice was soft, controlled, dangerous. "Don Rossi, what did you just do?" Eli swallowed hard, throat dry. He couldn't speak, words tangled in his chest. He wanted to say, "I saved you." He wanted to say there was something wrong, but all that came out was a shaky whisper. Eli breathless. "I saw something." "There was." Don Rossi cutting him off. "You pushed me." The tone dropped like a knife. Ellie's heart sank. Everyone was staring. Guards, servers, the Koreans. The three men across the table hadn't moved at all. They stood calmly, hands folded, faces unreadable. The first one, the man with the clock tattoo, tilted his head slightly. Then, with a faint smile, he said in fluent Italian, "Korean man #1. Your boy is jumpy, Rossi. Not good for business." The boss narrowed his eyes. "Business?" he repeated coldly. He glanced at the floor again, the shimmering gas fading, the scent sharp and metallic. Then, slowly, he turned to his guards. "Get everyone out." Within seconds, the once lively rooftop bar turned into a tense battlefield of silence. The laughter was gone. Only wind and breathing remained. Ellie's uncle grabbed his arm, whispering harshly. Uncle angry whisper, "Do you have any idea what you've done? You just assaulted a mafia boss." Ellie's voice shook. "It wasn't an accident. I swear, there was something in the drink." Uncle furious, trembling. "You're seeing things again. Stop this nonsense before you." Don Rossi interrupting quietly. "Let the boy speak." The boss's eyes locked onto Ellie's, cold, calculating. For the first time, Eli saw what true power looked like. Not shouting, not threats. Just quiet, controlled danger. "Tell me," Rossi said, voice calm as still water. "What did you see?" Ellie's voice cracked. "I heard a countdown. In Korean. They were saying 3, 2, 1 before you raised your glass. And then I saw smoke." The boss didn't react. He turned his gaze slowly to the three Korean men. They smiled, that same polite, eerie smile. Korean man #2. Countdown? That's absurd. Perhaps he's had too much coffee. The others chuckled softly. Ellie's stomach turned. They weren't scared. They were amused. And that's when Eli noticed something no one else did. Beneath the table, the faint red blinking light he'd seen earlier had gone dark. Whatever it was, it had already done what it was supposed to do. Ellie's heart pounded. He whispered under his breath, "It's not over." The boss's gaze flicked toward him. "What?" But before Eli could answer, SFX. Metallic click, sharp, brief. Eli flinched. Everyone froze. The Korean man with the tattoo had just pressed something under his sleeve. Don Rossi's guards drew their weapons instantly, guns aimed. Guards shouting, "Hands where we can see them!" The Koreans didn't move. They stood there, calm as statues. Korean man #3 softly. "This is not your fight, Rossi." Don Rossi growling. "When someone tries to poison my drink, it becomes my fight." The air thickened, tension sharp enough to cut through. Ellie's heart hammered. He could feel something building again. That vibration in the air. He heard it, faint but clear. 3-2. He looked around wildly. No one else reacting. Only him. He turned to the boss. "Get down," he shouted. The boss frowned. "What?" Eli screaming. "Down!" SFX. Violent rush of air. Table flipping. Gunshots. Glass shattering. Eli lunged forward, grabbing the boss by the shoulder and pushing him hard to the ground. The marble cracked under their weight. A split second later, the spot where the boss had been standing exploded, a deafening pop of compressed gas. A small hidden capsule had burst, releasing a silver cloud that spread fast, hissing like venom in the sunlight. People screamed. Guards opened fire. The Koreans dove for cover, not running, but retreating with purpose. Their movements were too precise, too synchronized. Eli coughed, eyes watering from the gas. He dragged the boss behind a pillar as gunfire echoed. Don Rossi shouting, "What the hell is this?" Eli gasping, "I told you there was a countdown." As FX, bullets, footsteps, broken glass scattering. A guard rushed toward them, coughing, covering his mouth. The Koreans, they're gone. Don Rossi stood, pulling a pistol from his jacket, fury in his eyes. He looked down at Eli, breathing hard. "You saved my life," he said slowly. "Now tell me who they are." Eli shook his head. "I don't know. I just heard." Before he could finish, a shadow fell over them. From across the bar, one of the Korean men was still there. The one with the tattoo, standing by the exit, calm, unharmed. He looked at Eli for a long, unsettling moment, then lifted his hand, not a gun, not a threat, just a single gesture. 3 fingers, then 2, then 1, and he mouthed the words, slowly, "We see you." Eli froze. His body went cold. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. The man lowered his hand, turned, and disappeared into the sunlight. SFX. Fading footsteps, silence thick with tension. Don Rossi holstered his gun. The rooftop was a mess. Tables overturned, glass glittering like spilled diamonds. His guards coughed and secured the area. But the boss's attention stayed locked on Eli. "Boy," he said quietly, "you've got a lot of explaining to do." Eli could barely breathe. His mind replayed the countdown over and over. 3, 2, 1. The whisper, the shimmer, the smoke. It wasn't random. It wasn't a single attack. It was a signal. For the first time in his life, Eli didn't feel invisible anymore. But he wished he did. He didn't want this attention. He didn't want this fear. He wanted to go back to quiet days, safe silence, no countdowns, no blood. But it was too late. The shy boy who spoke too little had just stepped into a world where silence could kill. Don Rossi quietly, "You said you heard a countdown. You still hearing it?" Eli hesitated, then whispered, "Yes." Don Rossi sharply, "What's it saying now?" Ellie's eyes lifted slowly toward the distant city skyline, where a faint red light blinked on a tower nearby. He swallowed hard. "It's starting again." And as the camera pulls back, we see the rooftop from above, smoke still curling, sunlight glinting off glass, and a small blinking device left under a chair, counting down again. 3, 2. The rooftop had gone quiet hours ago, but in the basement of the Rossi estate, the storm was just beginning. Concrete walls, dim lights, the smell of smoke still clinging to their clothes. Eli sat alone on a metal chair. Across from him, Don Matteo Rossi, the most feared man in the city. Between them, silence. A silence heavier than gunfire. Don Rossi coldly. "You're going to start talking now, boy." Eli hesitant. "I already told you everything I know." Don Rossi. "You told me what you saw, not what you understand." Ellie's hands trembled in his lap. He could still see it, that faint silver smoke rising from the glass. The man's cold smile. The countdown that no one else heard. He wasn't crazy. He couldn't be. But every word he said made him sound more insane. Eli softly, almost pleading. "I swear." They were counting, in Korean. 3, 2, 1. And then that gas. Don Rossi cutting him off. "I know what I breathed in, kid. But I want to know how you knew." Eli looked up. The boss's eyes were sharp, unreadable. "I didn't," Eli whispered. I felt it." Svex. Rossi's footsteps echoing as he circles Eli. Don Rossi. "Felt it? Huh?" He stopped behind Eli, voice close to his ear. "You expect me to believe a quiet, stuttering kid walks into a meeting full of killers and just feels danger coming?" Ellie's breathing hitched. He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because the truth, the part he didn't even understand, was that it wasn't the first time. When he was 10, he'd felt it too. A buzzing in his ears right before a fire broke out in his apartment building. When he was 12, a vibration in his chest seconds before a gas explosion downtown. Every time, he'd heard something. A whisper, a count, a warning. But no one ever believed him. So he stopped talking. He became the boy who spoke too little. As effects, echoing metal door opens, footsteps enter. A new figure stepped into the dim light. A woman, tall, in a black suit, eyes sharp and observant. Don Rossi glancing at her. "DR." "Hannah, you're late." Dr. Hannah coldly. "I came as soon as you called." "You said the boy predicted the attack?" Eli murmuring. "I didn't predict anything." Dr. Hannah. "Then how did you know what was about to happen?" Eli met her eyes. And for the first time, he saw something that chilled him. Recognition. She knew something. Dr. Hannah wasn't just a psychologist. She was Korean. And when Eli heard her voice, something deep inside him trembled. Her accent, it matched the one he'd heard on the rooftop. That same rhythm, that same precision in the word, 3. Ellie's breath caught. Eli whispering, "It was your voice." SFX. Sudden silence, only Ellie's heartbeat faintly audible. The room went still. Rossi's expression hardened. Dr. Hannah's eyes didn't flinch. Dr. Hannah softly, "Dangerous. You should be careful with your words, boy." Don Rossi to Hannah. "What's he talking about?" Dr. Hannah smoothly. "He's confused. Trauma does that." But Eli could tell. She was lying. Her hands were steady, but her pulse, he could see it, beating fast in her neck. He stood slowly, his voice trembling. "Eli, you were there. Maybe not on the roof. But you know them. The 3 men." Dr. Hannah smiling faintly. "And if I did?" Eli. "Then tell him what that countdown means." Don Rossi snapping. "Enough." SFX. Loud bang. Rossi slams his hand on the metal table. The sound echoed through the room. Eli flinched. Rossi leaned forward, his tone quieter but sharper. "You're both going to tell me the truth. Because if that poison was meant for me, then someone's declared war." Dr. Hannah looked at the boss, and for the first time, there was something like regret in her eyes. Dr. Hannah quietly. "Matteo, this isn't about you." Rossi frowned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then turned to Eli. "It's about him." SFX. Faint hum, the sound of tension in the air, heartbeat rising. Eli froze. "What?" Dr. Hannah stepped closer, her voice lowering. "You think it's coincidence that you were at that bar? That you heard the countdown?" She shook her head. "They've been testing you. Eli shaking. Testing me? For what? Dr. Hannah. For response time. For accuracy. For sensitivity to frequency. Her words hit like a storm. Ellie's mind spun. Frequency. That word. That's what the countdown had felt like. A vibration, not just a sound. He remembered the whisper inside his skull, the way the numbers echoed inside his mind, not around him. He realized he wasn't hearing it with his ears. He was feeling it. Don Rossi gritting his teeth. What the hell are you saying, Hannah? Dr. Hannah measured. The Koreans you met, they're not street dealers or assassins. They work for a group called the Zero Division. They develop sonic weapons, silent frequencies that can trigger nerve collapse or obedience. She turned to Eli, and somehow he can detect them. Eli stunned whisper, You mean I'm a target? Dr. Hannah, no. She looked away. You're the key. The air went cold. Ellie's knees felt weak. He'd spent his life hiding his silence, ashamed of being different, avoiding noise, avoiding people. And now that very silence was the thing they wanted. Don Rossi stepped closer, eyes narrowing. So, they tried to kill me to test him? Dr. Hannah nodded once. They needed to see how far his instincts go. Don Rossi low, dangerous. Then they made a mistake, because now I'll find every one of them. He turned to Eli, gripping his shoulder. You stay close to me, kid. From now on, you don't move alone. Eli wanted to argue, to say he wasn't part of this world, that he just wanted to disappear. But deep down, he knew that wasn't possible anymore, because the countdown was still there. Faint, whispering. 3, 2. He gasped. It's starting again. SFX. Distant metallic ringing, like a signal pulsing through the air. Dr. Hannah's head snapped up. Her eyes widened. It's not coming from here, she said. It's coming beneath us. Rossi's guards scrambled, running toward the elevator, guns ready. Don Rossi. What's below this floor? Guard panicked. The generator room. Ellie's ears rang. The hum grew louder, a painful vibration in his skull. He pressed his hands against his head. Stop it. Please, he whispered. But the sound only grew sharper. And then, he understood. It wasn't just a countdown this time. It was a message. He whispered the translation through trembling lips. Below the silence lies the truth. SFX. Deep rumble, machinery powering up, alarms starting. Dr. Hannah's face drained of color. Mateo, they planted something in your generator. Don Rossi shouting. Everyone out now. Eli stumbled to his feet, dizzy from the pulse echoing in his skull. But before they could move, SFX. Faint static click, power surging. The lights flickered. The hum turned into a roar. Eli shouting, It's not a bomb. It's a signal. And as the lights dimmed to red, Dr. Hannah turned toward Eli, eyes wide with something between fear and awe. They've found us, she whispered. Rossi drew his gun, scanning the room. Dr. Hannah met his gaze. The rest of Zero Division. The sound grew closer, organized, deliberate. Ellie's body trembled. He could feel them before he saw them. The vibration in the air. The silent countdown. 3, 2. And then, in the doorway stood 5 silhouettes. Among them, the man with the clock tattoo. He smiled, calm, confident. Korean man. You were right, Dr. Hannah. He is the key. Ellie's eyes widened. He looked at Hannah, betrayal flickering in his chest. You knew? Her silence said it all. The truth beneath silence had finally surfaced, and it was darker than he ever imagined. The boy who caught the countdown was never a witness. He was the experiment. Dawn was breaking, but there was no peace in it. The first light touched the glass windows of the Rossi estate, painting them gold. Yet beneath that calm glow, the air trembled with danger. The boy who once barely spoke, Eli Park, now stood between two worlds. The one that raised him in silence, and the one that wanted to use that silence as a weapon. 5 silhouettes stood before him, the men from the bar. Behind them, Dr. Hannah, her face pale, her eyes avoiding his. Don Matteo Rossi's men had their guns drawn, but they couldn't move fast enough. The hum in the air was freezing them in place. Eli breathing heavily. "What are you doing to them?" Clock Tattoo Man calmly. "Not us." Ellie's chest tightened. The hum grew sharper, vibrating through his bones, through his skull. He pressed his hands against his ears, but it didn't stop. It wasn't sound. It was inside him. Dr. Hannah quietly. "Eli, listen to me." Eli shouting. "You lied to me. You said you wanted to help." Dr. Hannah softly. "I did. But you have to understand, this was bigger than all of us." Her voice cracked, the first time Eli had heard emotion from her. But it didn't matter. The air around them shimmered faintly, a distortion, like heat on asphalt. Don Rossi shouted, but his voice warped, swallowed by the frequency. His guards collapsed, clutching their heads. Only Eli could still stand. Only Eli could hear through the chaos. The countdown began again. 3, 2, 1. He felt it crawl through his veins, a pulse syncing with his heartbeat. This was it. The same countdown he'd heard before every tragedy in his life. But this time, he understood. It wasn't a warning. It was a signal, a trigger, and he was the detonator. Eli horrified whisper, "You're using me." Clock Tattoo Man smiling faintly. "No, Eli. We are activating you." "Eli, I'm not your weapon." Clock Tattoo Man. "Then prove it." "Stop the signal." Eli fell to his knees. His head throbbed, voices overlapping in his mind. Dozens of countdowns, all layered over each other. Each one leading somewhere different. Each one ending in silence. Dr. Hannah knelt beside him, gripping his shoulder. Dr. Hannah urgent. "Eli, you can stop them. Listen to the pattern. Find the one that doesn't match." Eli pained. "I can't, there are too many." Dr. Hannah pleading. "Yes, you can. You were born to hear what others can't." Her words echoed through his panic, cutting through the noise. He forced his eyes shut, and in the blackness, he saw it. Waves of sound, bright, vibrating lines twisting through the air. Most pulsed in perfect rhythm. But one line shimmered out of sync. Slower. Lower. Hidden. He reached for it, mentally, instinctively, and the hum around him faltered. Clock Tattoo Man furious. "Stop him." The other men raised compact devices, thin, glowing discs. But before they could activate them, Rossi's guards fired. Gunshots tore through the hall, glass shattered, smoke filled the air. Rossi grabbed Eli by the arm. Don Rossi yelling, "Move, kid. Whatever you're doing, finish it outside." They ran through the smoke-filled corridors, Eli clutching his temples as the hum grew louder again. Each step felt heavier, like gravity itself was trying to drag him down. The mansion doors burst open, cold dawn wind slammed against their faces. The city stretched before them, glowing faintly under the rising sun. But the countdown didn't stop. 10-9. Eli stumbled. He could hear the voice everywhere, in the air, the birds, even the heartbeat of the world around him. Eli hoarse whisper. "They said it across the city." Don Rossi. "What?" Eli. "The frequency. It's not just here. They've connected it to the power grid. Every speaker, every signal tower. It's all carrying it." Don Rossi gritting his teeth. "Then cut it off." Eli. "I can't. Not without hearing the last number." Rossi grabbed his shoulders, shaking him. "Then listen, boy. You stopped me from dying once, now stop this whole damn city." Eli looked up at him, eyes wet, face pale. For the first time, the shy boy didn't look afraid. He looked determined. He closed his eyes again. He filtered them out, one by one, until all that remained was the faint, broken pattern, the false countdown. He reached for it. It pulsed slower, off beat. "Wrong." He whispered to himself, "You don't belong here." And with one final breath, he silenced it. The world went still. The vibration in his chest disappeared. For the first time in years, Eli heard nothing. Absolute silence. He opened his eyes. The city was bathed in golden light. The hum was gone. He did it. Don Rossi smiling faintly. "You did it, kid." But before Eli could answer, Dr. Hannah's voice echoed softly. Dr. Hannah. No, he just opened it. Eli turned, confusion flashing in his eyes. Dr. Hannah stood there, holding one of the glowing discs, her hands trembling. Eli heard. Why? Dr. Hannah quietly. Because silence isn't the end, Eli. It's the beginning. She pressed the device. Eli fell to his knees as the pulse rippled through the horizon. Birds took flight. Windows shattered in the distance. Don Rossi shouted something, but his voice warped, distorted, twisted by the air. The world seemed to bend. The sun rose higher, too fast, too bright. And for a moment, Eli saw it. A shadow spreading across the skyline, like a veil of invisible fire. It wasn't destruction. It was awakening. Dr. Hannah whispered through the noise. Dr. Hannah. The Zero Division never wanted to end the world, Eli. They wanted to reset it. And you're the key frequency. Eli weakly. I'm not your weapon. Dr. Hannah softly. Then stop me. Eli forced himself up. The pulse still rang through his bones. But this time he pushed back. He let the silence rise again. Not fear, but focus. The frequency inside him met hers. The air shimmered, two invisible forces colliding. Every glass pane on the street cracked. Light bent. And then, when the dust cleared, the street was still. Smoke drifted across the rising sun. Dr. Hannah lay motionless beside the cracked disc. Rossi stood behind Eli, silent, watching. Eli turned, his face pale, eyes distant. Eli softly. It's not over. They're still out there. Rossi nodded grimly. Then we hunt them. The boy who once spoke too little had finally found his voice. And now that voice could shake the world. As the first rays of full daylight broke over the skyline, Eli closed his eyes one last time, listening. Far away, faint and distant. He heard it again. 3. He opened his eyes. 2. He exhaled slowly, steady. 1. He whispered back. Not this time. The silence returned. But somewhere, beneath the sound of the wind, the next countdown had already begun. Pause. If you've been following Ellie's story, don't stop now. Like this video, share it with someone who believes silence can speak louder than words. And subscribe for what comes after the countdown. Because silence isn't over.